today we have an exciting discussion, BU Powerfully discussion around building a fulfilling life and going beyond patriarchy. And today we have Atiya Sumar, who's a strong advocate for equal rights and opportunities for women in Africa, but also around the world. And she's committed to helping women and girls tap into their full potential and find their voices and really take their place to live in this world fully. She's the head of program and business partnerships at the British Council Tanzania. And as we welcome Atiya, we're excited to have you today. Go ahead, Atiya, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Belaine. And hello, everyone. I'm really excited to be here, very happy to be here. And thank you very much for joining me today. And also my heartfelt thanks to the team of Zahara's Dream for giving me this wonderful opportunity. A few days ago, I was discussing this event with a close friend of mine, and he asked me, so what exactly is patriarchy? So I think that is the perfect question to start today's conversation with. What is patriarchy? At macro levels, at the level of governments and big corporations, multinationals, patriarchy is a system where power is invested, where the men hold all the power and women are excluded from it. At the micro level, in families and homes and family-run businesses, in communities, patriarchy is a system where the eldest male is the head of the family. And when you come to communities, that means the men are the leaders of the family. And the only criteria needed for this position to be the head of the family or the head of the community is for you to be a man. Your qualifications, your skills, your experience, nothing is taken into consideration. And the entire decision-making and authority is vested in this man or these men. Now we will be speaking about this level of patriarchy because this patriarchy at the level of families and homes is what affects the girl child from the moment she is born until she dies. This system of patriarchy decides what are a woman's roles, what are her functions, to the extent that they decide that this patriarchal system decides how a woman should feel, what is she entitled to feel and what she can't feel. So I feel that if this is addressed at grassroots level, there are chances that it will rise up, because the same men who are leading these homes and communities also lead the corporations and the big businesses. So we've seen how patriarchy views men. How does patriarchy view women? In a patriarchal culture, women do not have hopes, desires, dreams, or aspirations. And if they do have, they are not important. They are trivial. What women do have a lot of are roles, responsibilities, and a lot of functions. So what are those roles? Those roles are primarily and mostly associated with men. So a woman is, a girl can be a daughter, a sister, a wife, a mother, and a daughter-in-law. She spends her entire life juggling these roles, trying to find a balance so that she can execute these roles to the best of her ability to perfection. Somewhere in this juggling act, she loses her womanhood, her identity, and she becomes, she sort of takes on the forms of these roles, and she forgets that she is an individual in herself as well. In patriarchal systems and cultures, women also bear the burden of tradition and customs and associations. So they are taught to sacrifice from very tender ages because they are the daughter and not the son. And we hear of, infanticide and all of that, even in some African countries, but mostly also in South Asia. And so they are deprived of the best. But when it's time to test the honor of the family, who is put to test? It's the girl. It's the woman through whom the honor of the family is tested. And the entire burden of modesty, submissiveness, patience falls on the woman. And whenever I speak about this, I always share the story of a good friend of mine, and for the sake of anonymity, we are going to call her Hania. I don't want to mention her real name here, and in my other stories as well, I am going to use different names than the actual women. So Hania and her brother went to a faith-based school. So they had a building for boys and a building for girls, but the campus was the same. And the uniform for girls in that school, because it was a Muslim school, was that the girl has to be completely covered. The only thing you can see is her face. So one day, a teacher asked Hania that during break time, could you please come to the staff room on the boys' side and collect the papers. I have already marked them. So fully covered, she went during break time to the boys' side staff room and collected the papers, finished her day at school, went home. Her brother would come around an hour and a half later because they had sports, after school sports for boys. Yeah, nothing for girls, sorry, not after school or within school hours. So she went home and she was chatting with her parents, and then her brother comes home and immediately just viciously attacks her and starts hitting her. And the father gets up and pulls him away and says, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Why? Why did she come to the boys' side? Why? All the boys were telling me, look, there's your sister. Why did she come?" And the father actually scolded the boy and said, "You can't do that. You have to be civil and you can ask her." However, the mother said, "No, don't scold him. I can absolutely understand." Excuse me. "I can absolutely understand why he's doing that. He's a man and his sister is his honor. If somebody's staring at his honor or pointing fingers at his honor, of course, it's going to get him angry. You know, he's protective of his sister." We always assume that patriarchy is perpetuated by men. But in essence, it's women like these who are the flag bearers and the gatekeepers of patriarchy. Do you know how old this boy was when he actually started hitting his sister because the boys were staring at her, although she was fully covered? He was barely 13. So by the age of 13, a boy from a modern literate family had already been conditioned to think that his honor depends on his wife, on his sister's modesty, on how she dresses, on how she behaves, and on where she goes. So coming back to women in how women are viewed in the patriarchal culture and how it has affected me. And when I go back, I think the earliest memories that I have of being affected by patriarchy are during my school times. I was studying in Pakistan at that time in a co-education school. I was never allowed to attend any after-school activity if it was recreational. So no dramas, debates, concerts, because there would be boys. I was never allowed to go to any school trips, whether they were for fun or educational, because there would be boys. I was never allowed to attend any birthday parties or any parties where boys would be invited. I was also never allowed to go to a friend's house without any reason. So there had to be a reason. Either you're going for a project which you are doing together, or there is an all-girls party, or there's homework. Whereas for my brother, the reality was completely different. After, I moved back to Tanzania from Pakistan, and I joined a local school here for 1 year before I moved to Canada for further studies. Now, in that school, girls were not allowed to participate in any school, in any, what can I say, in any inter-school activities. So if we received an invite for girls, for students to come for a debate or a drama, they would always send boys. It was a written rule that girls would not attend that. Now, we had a feminist teacher who insisted that next time an invitation comes, we have to send a girl, and she insisted that it be me. So we received an invitation to attend a debate, to send 2 students from our school for a debate in a neighboring school. And because of that teacher's insistence, I was selected to join the boy who was going for the debate. Because I'm a girl, I was given a form to take home and to get it signed by my parents that they give their consent. For the boy, he had already become 15, so he didn't need any consent. So I went home and I got my mother to sign the paper, went to school the next day, and I gave the paper. And I was told, oh, has your mother signed this? And I said, yes. I don't have a father. My father passed away, so I'm being raised by a single mom. And they said, no, well, we can't accept a woman's consent or, a woman giving approval for her daughter to actually go and attend, to participate in a debate. Can you please get this signed by one of your uncles? And I remember that this, I think, was the turning point for me. Before that, I had also rebelled. I had lied and gone out with friends and attended concerts and gone to parties. But this was the time when I actually put my foot down and I said, no, I'm not going to get any of my uncles to sign this. My mom carried me in her womb. She gave birth to me. She's nursed me. She's nurtured me. She's invested in my education. So if you cannot accept this signature, then please consider me out of the debate. And well, then they said, all right, we'll let you know. They called me after 2 days and they said, okay, you can participate in the debate because we already called your uncle and we've spoken to him and he has no problem. So these were some of the things that I faced. And then I hit my mid-teens, my late teens. So this was in my mid-teens, and in my late teens, and because when I became of marriageable age, all the women in the family now started giving me advice on marriage. And I've actually written down those advices. So I'm going to read them out because I actually remember each and every advice from every woman in my family. So it starts with anger and aggression is in men's nature, and submissiveness and compromise is in ours. And they said it shouldn't be difficult because women are soft and gentle and they can be molded easily. And strong-headed, independent women are not appealing anyway. A woman's calling in life is to mold herself to her husband's liking. Don't ever make him feel inadequate by talking about your accomplishments. And don't make him feel neglected in the pursuit of your achievements. Be humble about your talents, but feed his ego. Pursue your dreams, but first make sure you are accommodating him to pursue his. You don't want him to leave you for someone else who is feminine and gentle and soft-spoken. So give him the respect and importance he deserves as a man. And the most important part of this advice, don't ever provoke him. If he doesn't like it, don't say it, don't wear it, don't do it. And this is the most simple and effective remedy for a happy marriage. Until today, nothing has changed. In 2020, I still get calls and messages from women who say they are struggling with the same thing, that self-respect and individuality are still alien concepts. I come across women almost every day who tell me that they have to fight to be who they really are. And now that we're talking about marriage, I'm going to tell you again a few stories of the women who have spoken to me. A friend of mine, and we'll call her Leila, who was living in South Africa with her husband and children, decided to move back to Tanzania. But it was decided between her and her husband that she would move back first and check out good schools for the children. And if they didn't find any good schools, they would stay back in South Africa. So Leila came back with her daughter and her son, and she put up at her father-in-law's house. And she told her father-in-law that, could you please arrange transport for me tomorrow? I've made an appointment to meet with a few principals for the schools I want to check out. Her father-in-law said, oh, you don't need to worry. Here is the form. I've already filled it out. You just have to sign it. All the girls in our family go to this school. And Leila said, no, I don't want to send my daughter to this school. I've already checked out. I've already decided that I have to choose one from the 3 I've selected. The father-in-law could not believe it. He was literally in shock. And he said, have you ever heard your mother-in-law say no to me? He said, women don't make these decisions. The decisions that you can make are about the house help, about cooking, about groceries. But where my granddaughter goes to school can never be your decision. So please sign this. And then, you know, when your son is older and ready for school, you can send him wherever you want to send him. But my granddaughter will go to this school. And Layla said no. She arranged her own transport, checked out the schools, and sent her daughter to the school of her choice. Eventually, her relationship with her father-in-law changed. They had a strong bond, and her father-in-law respected her. But initially, it was very difficult for him to deal with the daughter-in-law who made her own decisions, because he had never experienced it before. And I would never just blame him for it. I would also blame the wife, the children who allowed him to feel this sense of entitlement. Afterwards, he actually started consulting with his daughter-in-law about what to do and what not to do. When I was living in the UK, you know, we think that these things only happen in Africa and Asia and Pakistan and India. But when I was living in the UK, I attended a family gathering where the women had cooked, cleaned the house, laid the table, warmed the food. Everyone ate, and then the men went out to smoke, where the women cleaned up, loaded the dishwasher, made some tea, and then they sat to chat. After a while, the men all started walking in. And one of the aunties said, all right, okay, can you just pull up the dining room chairs and sit on the floor? The men are coming in. So I asked her, so what if the men are coming in? She said, yeah, so you know, they'll need the sofa. So I told her that, are you serious? Some of these men are your sons and your niece and your nephews. You are much older than them. Your knees are hurting. And you are going to sit on the floor so that the men can sit on the sofa. And she told me, yeah, there's no point explaining things to you. You're always competing with men. I don't know what is your problem with men. Why can't you respect men? Why do you always have to argue? So this then kind of became my brand, you know. Feminism was used as an abusive word for me. People started making fun of me. They said, oh, Atiya only talks about this. You know, she's competing with men. She's manly. And this also then spilled into my cousins and friends. A cousin of mine shared the poster for this talk in her friend group. And immediately, I mean, so there were women and men in that group, and immediately they jumped on her saying, so your sister is going to go again on now, yeah, talking about how women become Mrs. and men don't change their Mr. So even my family and my cousins have to put up with this ridicule, but I just don't give up. And I think my journey started with these little acts of rebellion, which then, you know, became bigger. And now I inspire girls, I talk to them, I mentor girls, but every single day I make sure that if I'm on a WhatsApp group, if somebody shares a sexist joke, I will call them out and I will tell them that this is a sexist joke. And to be honest, it's mostly women sharing these sexist jokes. And I actually share information and facts about the impact and the effect of these kind of gendered and sexist jokes on women. If somebody uses gendered language, I don't care where I'm in a family gathering or in a meeting, I will actually tell them that this is not acceptable. You know, all the time you hear people saying, yeah, you know, be a man, you know, why are you whining like a girl? This happens all the time. So I make sure that the struggle is there everywhere, on a macro level where I talk about it, but also on the micro level where I make sure I call out people wherever I'm meeting them. And I would also like to give another example. When I was working in the UK, and I'm emphasizing this because we shouldn't think that this only happens in Africa and India and Pakistan. When I was working in the UK, when I joined an organization, I was told that there is a rota for the bathroom carpet and towel to be taken home on the weekend, washed and brought on Monday. I said, no problem. So when my turn came, I took it. And then within 2 weeks, it was my turn again. So I asked the lady, like, I just took it 2 weeks ago. She said, yeah. And then I took it. And then the other lady took it. And now it's your turn. I said, yeah, but what about these 8 men working in the office as well? Believe me when I tell you, the way the lady looked at me, it was as if she thought I was mad. She told me, so are you actually saying that the men should take the rug and the towel home to wash? I said, yeah. She told me, are you really saying that? I said, yeah. Like, what's the big deal? They can lift the rug, they can put it in their car, they can load the machine. And so, well, what happened is that she said, no, that's not possible. And so I told her, well, from now, consider me a man as well. So I'm not going to be taking the rugs and the towel home until the men also take it, because this is not fair. Now here again, I'm saying that the men didn't even know that the rugs and the towels had to be taken home to be washed. It was the women who actually felt that the men are superior and they cannot be demeaned to do these domestic chores. Education as well in the patriarchal context is very different for men and women. When a girl is getting educated, she's told, don't get educated very highly, because it's going to be difficult to find a husband for you. And men don't like very highly educated women, independent women, because then it's difficult to mold them to the ways of their family. Or they are told, don't choose a career in which your husband, in which you travel a lot, so you'll be causing discomfort to your husband, who's going to take care of him. And a man is a man. What happens when he wants intimacy and you are not there? He just go and get someone else. So be careful when you choose your career. Make sure that you're home when your husband comes, that you can keep a meal ready for him, and you're not too tired from your work, so you can give him some time. And then it comes, make sure that you are a full-time mother for your kid, because if you are a career woman and if you have a demanding job, then you'll be neglecting your kids. You won't be able to raise your kids right. Nobody has ever told this to men, that caring and domestic chores, women are not born with this. We don't have something like a microchip inside us, which enables us to do this better. These are life skills which are important for both men and women. So my journey is that at one point, I think, so I was 18 when I got married, and by the age of 26, I already had 3 children. And that was the time when I actually felt very frustrated, and I thought, okay, so this is going to be my life. Children, husband, cooking, cleaning. And I actually felt depressed and I felt suicidal, and I said, I cannot face this for the rest of my life. I'm very lucky that I had a very supportive husband who didn't even know anything about gender roles, or we raised our kids together. We still do domestic chores together. And every marriage has its ups and downs. But one thing I will say, that my journey became easier because my husband did not have these gender expectations from me, that you have to cook and you have to clean. So at 26, I decided to do a bachelor's degree. I enrolled in a local college. I did my bachelor's degree. And again, I will say it was possible because my husband did not have a sense of self-entitlement. He took over the house and the children as if it was his duty, not with a sense of obligation or for me to feel grateful. They were his children too. And I'm really grateful for that. After that, I did my master's. And then equipped with this education and with a lot of reading, I actually started, swimming against the tide. I started breaking stereotypes. And yes, I am not accepted in a lot of places. My own community has shunned me. My family ridicule me. But I do know that there are so many young girls out there who look up to me and think that, yes, there is hope. If she can do it. And I didn't start my journey at 15 or 16. I got the guts, and after the age of 36 or 37, to actually say no in public. I remember when my daughter was getting married, we decided to have the wedding in the mosque, because that is the culture, that is the tradition in my family and in my community. So one of the conditions is that the girl will not recite her own vows. The vows are in Arabic. And even if she can speak Arabic, she cannot recite her own vows. The boy has the choice. If he wants to recite his own vows, he can. If he wants to keep a representative, he can. But the girl has to keep a male representative to recite her vows. When I saw that, I decided that we are not going to get married in the mosque. And my family was so unhappy. And they actually said, "You're so petty. What difference does it make? At the end of the day, she is going to get married. And what difference does it make if she doesn't recite her own vows?" But I went against the whole family. My husband and I, we stood together and we said, no. We did her wedding in a normal hall and she recited her own vows. So when I was younger, I think I rebelled in, my defiance was in smaller acts where I stood my ground and said no. When I grew up, I think my defiance was more public because I realized that everybody is not lucky as me, that, you know, they would have that they're able, that they have the space and the opportunity to say this. So then for me, it became, you know, people tell me, but you are not oppressed. You know, nothing is happening to you. You have raised your daughters the way you like them. You live a free, independent life. Then why do you have to keep talking about this? I think the point they don't understand is that I actually feel the pain of the girl child and of the women who are suppressed, who have to stifle their dreams. And I'm doing this for them. So I think I'll take a break here and hand over back to you, Verlaine.
Atiya, thank you so much. How powerful. It's, I think we could have all continued sitting here and really receiving, you know, a lot of the experience, a lot of, you know, the difficult also journey that you yourself as a girl child, you know, had to go through, and of course, as sisters. And I think you mentioned something that's very important, the unfortunate universal aspect that patriarchy has. And it doesn't matter if we're in Tanzania, if we're in Juba, if we're in wherever, in the UK, here in New York, the story is the same. And as women, we are unfortunately the prime victims of patriarchy and literally having a foot on our neck. And I think that's why having you here today is very critical, and it's important. And it's empowering, you know, for us as young women to listen to your journey and to receive a lot of your own, you know, guidance and advice on how to face it and how to go beyond it. You know, it's not an easy journey, but that's why we need the solidarity. And as you said, despite the fact that you might not have it on a day-to-day the way that you had it younger, you are still advocating for it because you know that the pain of another woman is your own pain. And I think, as you know, when we recognize that, we can move forward. And that's really the spirit behind Zahara Stream and the Be You Powerfully talk. We're going to open the Q&A. I see a lot of comments on the chat and on Twitter as well. People have been sharing a lot of what you said. So to help us move forward, we can take perhaps 3 first questions, if that's okay with you, Atiya, and then we can go to the next round of questions. So we're going to open the floor now. And if we have one of the Zahara streamers who'd like to come, please unmute yourself and turn on your camera so we can say hi and see you. If not, we understand, you know, sometimes cameras don't work, but please feel free to come in. The floor is open. Thank you. And don't be shy.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
This is Umi. I'm sorry, my camera is not on. Thank you, Atiya. This is a very brilliant and powerful topic that you are discussing today. And for me personally, I think some of the things that you share even affected me growing up and then through my journey also. And I am amazed with what you've already discussed, that it's true, it's women. Women are the flag bearers of all what is happening to us. And I have something that I want you to touch on about infertility. When we are married and we cannot have a child, everybody point the finger at the woman that, oh, she is the one who cannot give us the child. But nobody sits and say, you know what, maybe we should go to the hospital and investigate, or maybe my husband should go with me so that the doctor will know, or my husband will say, no, I am not going because I know I am not at fault. And secondly, it is our in-laws, our sisters-in-laws, our mothers-in-laws are the ones that always create, they see us as we are not fully enough. Our womanhood is not enough because we cannot bear a child. They will never come to us and hug us and say, it's okay, you will be fine, you are young, or time will come where you can hold your baby. So how can we have a conversation wherein women should be in the forefront to advise you, to support you, to be there for you mentally, to say, you know what, it's fine, you will be okay, or we're going to talk to our brother, or I'm going to talk to my son, to go with you to the hospital and see, maybe he might be the one who has the problem. And secondly, sometimes even if you go with the doctor, with your husband to the hospital, he will not accept that he is at fault. So how can we have a conversation wherein we women will stand up and start supporting each other? Thank you.
Thanks, Ome, for this brilliant question. And I do know a few people who are affected by this. I think the first thing I would like to say is that why is there this expectation that as soon as someone gets married, the next best thing that can happen to them is a child? Why do they have this expectation? So I think the journey has to start with first removing this expectation that the minute a couple gets married, the question that people are going to ask, so are you pregnant? When are you having a baby? There needs to be some awareness and advocacy around here, around this topic. And if you're anything like me, you will just take it head on and end up in arguments every time somebody asks you this question. Secondly, like you mentioned, you really won't be hearing a lot from the men asking, when are we going to have the baby? When are we going to have the baby? Because it is women, the custodians of patriarchy, who are so worried about the lineage and the family, going ahead. And I actually know a lady whose mother-in-law had cancer, and the lady was, newly married, and she actually had to produce a baby because they didn't know how long the mother-in-law would live, so that the mother-in-law could just, hold the baby before she passed away. So I think this has to be on different levels. Personally, I would say there has to be communication between your husband and you. So although my husband didn't believe in gender roles, he still had a bit of a male ego. And it took me 25 years to make him a feminist. He now is a feminist, and so it took me 25 years. We watched feminist movies together. So I started having this conversation with my husband, and it took me a while, but yes, he now understands that the male ego cannot be entertained all the time. So I would say it's very easy to say, well, don't get affected by these talks, and that's not possible. I would say get the conversation rolling, and we always expect that somebody else would do it. But I believe that we have to start these initiatives. So we have to start advocacy, we have to start awareness, we have to start talking to people in our family. We have to remove this stigma. We have to start talking to our friends. We need to write. We need to blog about these issues. So yeah, I think for me, it starts with creating awareness and advocacy. That is the beginning of any change. I hope I've managed to answer your question.
Thank you so much, Atiya. We have the next question is from Demi. Demi, do you want to come in?
Yes, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. My name is Oluwadamilola Akintoye. I am a law student, and I work so much for women empowerment. So my question is in line with young girls like me. In my society, in school, even in church, because I'm a Christian, some people see me as the bad egg. I remember there was a particular time I was having a conversation with my pastor, and he said, I'm trying so hard to be a man. And I don't understand, because I can't see that. I am just being me. And it's come across as, let me say, being proud, being petty, being okay. You can hear me. Okay, so as I was saying that as a student and as a young person, I still have authorities over me. I have people I submit to, my elderly ones, and they see me as one of the bad eggs. Can you hear me, please?
I know it's really breaking, actually. It's not very clear.
Oh.
Maybe you can type.
Okay, I'll type it. I don't know. I hope it's better now. So I said, as a young person, is it better now?
Yeah, it's better.
Thank you very much. I said, as a young student and as a young person who still have authorities over me, I have elderly ones I submit to, I have my pastor. It can be very unpleasant to see me being tagged the bad egg, in the sense that when I am having a conversation or I'm trying to get a person from saying sexist jokes, sexist conversations, they see me as I'm being too petty or I'm too much. I was even personally attacked as trying to lead young girls to be disobedient. That was the word that was used. And I, maybe because of the way that I read a lot, I read wide, I gain knowledge. There's a way people see feminists in Nigeria. They literally call us witches. They call us witches and haters of men, which I think is just a very, very wrong definition. And I have seen what feminism can do. As a young lady, I am studying law. Some people fought for me to be able to study law, and I see it as a responsibility to also join the fight and leave legacies for the future generations. And I can't do it alone. I need to get all the young women to join me on this journey. And then living in that kind of environment where I am seen as the bad egg, I am seen as the one leading other girls, stray girls to be disobedient. What do you think I can do as a person?
So Nigeria is home to my absolutely favorite feminist, Chimamanda. I just love that woman. So, you know, feminism is a very, very lonely journey. And what I found out is that I was struggling to find acceptance in a community, in a group of people, amongst friends who just didn't want me, who didn't agree with feminism. So I was looking for acceptance. I wanted to be accepted because that was my community. Those were my friends. From that entire group of friends, I now have only one friend. But you know, I have a whole new circle of friends who are my tribe. You know, we vibe together. So I think for your mental health, it is better to really keep to a minimum relationships and acquaintances and meetups with people who you feel they are hurting you and they are harming you. Because as women, we are taught that we have to be polite and we have to be kind, but we don't realize that in this politeness and in this kindness, we are also being kind to people who are actually harming us. So I would suggest that find your tribe and vibe with them. And if you do have to socialize with these people who are making you feel terrible, who think you are disobedient, then keep it to a very minimum until you have made yourself strong enough to stand in front of them and to argue or to say, you know, whatever you say, it doesn't affect me. But for now, to strengthen yourself, your mental health, your emotional health, find people who have the same mindset as you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Atiya. Kirisha, do you want to come next?
Okay, thank you, Belen. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, hi, Atiya. My question is, how do we fight this idea of success being equated to a man? I feel that many countries have come a long way with how women are viewed. Like, I'm from South Africa, and as much as we have a lot of issues regarding men, we have gender-based violence, etc. I find that as a woman, yes, you're allowed to study. Like in our communities, you can become anything you want to be. But there's always the case of no matter how far you get in life, your success is only as good as if you've got a man. So you can study, you can become an engineer, doctor, you can buy the house, buy the car, have everything that people consider successful. But the question is always, you know, where's the man? Why aren't you married? And after you've achieved all these things, it's like automatically you need to get married. And I don't have anything against marriage. That's not the issue. The thing is, why is it that we equate success in everything? Like we take away, I feel it takes away everything you've worked hard for. Some of us have come a long way in terms of being able to get financially where we are, being able to get through the educational aspect, you know, fighting poverty. Some people have fought traumatic childhoods and adolescence. And now after everything, all we can tell them is, no, when you have a man, then, you know, that's success. When you have a husband, then you're successful. When you have children, then you're successful. And as I mentioned, I'm not against marriage or anything, but there are women who don't want that. They're okay with just being on their own, but they're always the ones that are looked down upon in the community. Automatically, it's like, oh, you know, something must be wrong with you, with the fact that you're not married or you don't have a man with you. How can you have all this money, or how can you have all these qualifications and, you know, nobody likes you? Something must be wrong with you. And I feel like if we don't address this, we're never going to be at a place where we're happy with ourselves, because we're always going to try to attain that so-called man so that we can feel, okay, now I'm successful in the world, no matter how far we've come in life. So how do you think that we can actually fight this concept of success being equated to having a man?
Wow. Thank you for this. I actually think about this so often. You know, we speak of marriage as an achievement. And so what we need to do is we need to stop conditioning women. It is actually the women. Honestly, the men couldn't care less whether you're married or not married. You'll never hear men talking about, oh, this girl is 35, she's still not married. But this is the topic in women's kitty parties and tea parties. So I think we need to stop conditioning women to see marriage as a prize. Marriage is not an achievement. And, you know, nor is it what we should aspire to. We condition girls to aspire to marriage, but we do not condition boys to aspire to marriage. And so there is already a terrible imbalance over there. The boys, these girls will grow up to be women preoccupied with marriage. The boys will grow up to be men who are not preoccupied with marriage. And the women are going to marry these men. And so the relationship is automatically uneven, because the institution of marriage matters more to one than the other. So, and that's why we will always see that in so many marriages, women sacrifice more at a loss to themselves. So again, I will say that it starts with you. Don't worry about what those people are telling you. You start with yourself. What are you telling your sisters, your younger sisters, and your daughters, and how are you raising them? That's something that I have really learned, is that I cannot really change the whole wide world, but I can change the life of somebody very close to me, or, you know, somebody who has access to me, and they will change the life of somebody else, and they will change the life of somebody else. And that is how we will move ahead. So when anybody comes to ask me for advice, I will give them advice. If I have a cousin, a younger sister, or going through this, I will tell them. I will raise my girls differently. So it's all about my sphere of influence. I will change that. And those in that sphere will change their sphere of influence. And that's how we are going to remove this conditioning and this stigma.
Thank you so much, Atiya. And thank you, Karsha, for such an excellent question. We have Fadima. Fadimata, are you online?
Hi, yes, sure. Hi, everyone. Sorry, I will not be putting my camera on because of internet connection challenges. Thank you very much. I was just nodding and agreeing here by myself. I feel like these are so interesting conversations. Allow me just to share a few things from my personal as well as my professional experience. Just on the personal side, I must say
I don't know if some of you know that in Africa we have some societies that are called matriarchal, not patriarchal. Yes. So I am from that community that is like the women are given respect, women are given economic assets, value, and respect. But then, regardless of how my community and that is widely accepted, I didn't grow up in that setup. I grew up in the town because I happen to be my father is a teacher, so we ended up growing up in the towns, and then we were completely disconnected from how things happen in my society, and therefore my father struggled to how to handle his family somehow, being a teacher and being the only educated male, and then he only had daughters. No, well, not only daughters, but the first most of the family's daughters. I had 3 brothers, and then we are 4 daughters, and then my mother. So he struggled a little bit. And eventually what happened, he favored the boys. And then the whole outbringing was the obvious preference of the boys against the girls. And then my mother was trying to fight against that because she didn't grow up like that. She grew up in a society where she was like the queen. She was respected. She was not allowed to do some hard work. She was given access to her assets. She could decide. She could have a say. So we grew up in this dual conflicting situation where my dad will, whether he meant it or he didn't mean it, will make decisions favoring the boys, obviously, while my mother was trying to rebalance things. And then unfortunately, it happened that my mother never went to school, so she didn't have any incomes. Her only assets were animals, so she didn't have easy access to her assets to have money. So then I grew up in that conflicting setup, if you can see, where it was always a battle between my mother and my father about decision making. My decision making about like how sending children to school, how to use the family incomes, and anything literally was a battle. And then it reflected on us growing up. And somehow maybe that's what brought me to the job I'm doing and the type of life I'm doing, where at some point in my life I had to start rebelling, as some of you said, rebelling, starting positioning myself and making my own choices and my own decisions. I was lucky. I was the only one who was able to get to university, to get a scholarship, to get out of the country. And then once I came back, faced the same challenges about, okay, what next? Marriage. And then I was lucky also to get a job, delayed marriage, kept delaying marriage. And again, that's when now the society got involved. The aunts, everyone in the household. Why is she not yet married? And it got worse when my sisters, while I was busy studying, start getting married. And eventually, I guess I'm now at an age where people are giving up on seeing me married. But the thing is, eventually, because I kept fighting and I kept making my own choices, I was eventually the one taking care of the family, of the household, helping my siblings, helping even my dad, who is now retired. And now you can see the positioning and the perception are changing a little bit. I can still feel things are hard, but I can also see that, as you all said, there are still these challenges about women. What's the position of women in the society of making change? And one thing for sure I have learned is, and from my mother's experience, is we have to help women get access to incomes. The only way it can work, the only way men can respect women is to help women, yes, to have self-confidence, to have the leadership skills and the ability to say no, but incomes and ability to make decisions about your incomes make a lot of change in how you decide and how society perceives you. Because even if you are not married, or even if you are a single parent, for instance, which is a more difficult situation in our societies, the fact that you being a single parent and be able to take care of your children without depending on someone else makes a whole difference compared to if you are a single mother and you have to rely on your brother or your uncle or your father to take care of your children. So having access to incomes and empowering women economically, of course, building the leadership skills, seeing that you can have access to mentorship opportunities and to someone you can confide in is very important. But overall, we also know that individually we cannot change things. We really need to work together to change the society around us, the perception of the society around us, because it's really a struggle we are all facing in our daily lives. And individually, we will not make any change in against this battle, because at the end of the day, it boils down to how we educate our children, both boys and girls, as well as how we support them, what opportunities they will have access to. So let me stop here, and thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much for sharing that, Fatimata.
Thank you so much, Atiya. Thank you, Fedimata. That was a very good contribution. The next is our sister Kilebokhile, if you want to come in.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to switch on my camera. So, when it comes to this issue of patriarchy, I've had experiences with it, especially in academia where I work. But 2 weeks ago, I actually felt the brunt of patriarchy where, you're being labeled as too competitive. Number one, you've got too much estrogen. And then you're labeled as aggressive and overly emotional. And, the irony is that the very same people that label you to have these traits, then they come to you in the end and ask for solutions to certain problems that you were raising. But because they are not there, and it's mainly the men, they are not there to fully support you or understand you when you are raising issues that you are seeing, then you get labeled. And my biggest issue is the labels, because when you are somebody that's passionate and you see visions and you want to drive change in academic institutions, it becomes very hard, because at the end of the day, at top management is still patriarchal men that are just passing on rules that just suit them and actually pull women back. I can just give one very short example. Right now with the lockdown that's currently happening all over the world, we as academics, we're working from home, and I've got a small child. She's about 7 years old, and I have to facilitate homeschooling. And they were passing on instructions saying that, oh, if you are a mom that has a child, you need to use up your own sick leave days in order to do your work, because if you can't come to campus, then you need to use up your sick leave days. And I'm like, but that is unfair, because it feels like you're actually punishing me for being a mother, which is part of my being. I'm a mother and I'm a proud mother, but I'm not going to use up my sick leave days because now I need to take care of my daughter. So I just feel like, the patriarchy is so deeply entrenched in our society. And it's like you spoke about the isolation and, being labeled and everything. It's real. And I think we as women need to really develop the resilience and tenacity to actually, stay grounded, because I was derailed completely emotionally after, the last week Friday, but I had to get family to intervene and pick me up again and say, you know what, it's okay. Even my father, who is an advocate for feminism, said, you know what, I've experienced patriarchy even as a man. So those are some of the deep conversations that I think we need to expand on going forward, because it does not only affect us as women, but it also affects us, the men around us as well. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And I just want to add something here. When you said that Your father is also a victim of patriarchy, and yes, and so is my son, and so is my husband. My son is asked, doesn't it really hurt your honor? Don't you feel anything when your sisters, they are not fully covered, they don't wear a head covering and they wear shorts? So, what kind of a brother are you? People have actually asked him that. And my husband, they actually ask him, so what do you wear in the house? Do you wear a skirt? You're right under your wife's thumb. So yes, you have to be really, really thick-skinned to be able to bring about that change that we are talking about here today. As long as you have the support of your loved ones and you have a friend circle who understands you, is on the same mindset, I think it's important to keep your mental health as well, because this struggle can really put you into depression, into frustration. It can make you a very angry and bitter person as well. So it's good to have a small circle of support.
Thank you so much, Atiya. What a great question. Thank you, Kelebohile. Our next sister is Toyin. Toyin, do you want to come in?
Oh, yes. Thank you so much for this opportunity to be here. I've really, really, really learned a lot. And it's like everyone spoke my mind. My question is, how do you maintain or safeguard your mental health as a feminist, as a woman who believes in herself, who believes in change, and you're not getting support from your family, you're not getting support from your friends, you're not getting support from even where you work? Let me quickly use some of my experience as an example. I'm a media person, and I come from a family whereby my father had wanted everyone, his girls were just two, his girls to be teachers, because he believed that being a teacher, you have time for your family. But I got into university and said, no, I'm going to study communication and language art because I want to be a journalist. And at that point, he saw me as a rebel, let's put it that way. And over time, I was still the good girl, obey daddy, whatever daddy says, But inside my mind, I knew I wasn't the person I really wanted to be. I found out some things because my mom is so well educated. My father is retired as a professor in the university. And sometimes I wonder, why didn't you send my mom to school when you got married? Because he got married to her when he was still a student. And, these are some of the things that make me, put more energy these days to helping women and girls to be who they really want to be in life, in terms of career, in terms of whatever they really want. But I've come to that stage in my life where it seems as if, even at work, I'm being labeled. They see me as, she's always coming up with one argument or another. She's a gender person. Okay, we're in a meeting. If women issues are not, being balanced, or Tony would cause a lot of controversy here and there. Even women at work say nasty things about you, despite the fact that sometimes you fight for them. So my question, like I said, is, how do you maintain or safeguard your mental health when you don't even have anyone supporting you? I must say, I'm so happy to be in this group. I've learned a lot, and it's giving me peace. But I really want to know, how do you safeguard your mental health? Very important.
Thanks for the question, Toyin. I hope I am pronouncing your name correctly. And I'm really sorry. I'm so sorry that you have to go through all of this. But I think you should remember, and one thing you should always have in mind is just look at how brave you are. If there was anybody else in your place, they would actually just give up. But you need to really pat yourself on the back about your bravery and your persistence. And that's actually what is needed. So some of the things which I think are common, and I would tell you to do, would be meditation, affirmations, eating healthy, yoga, and those kind of things. I won't spend a lot of time on those things. You can even Google them and find. If I was in your situation at work, starting with work, I would quit that job. I would find another job.
Of course, sorry to interrupt you. I resigned in April because I just could not continue. And
yes, I'm in a similar situation where I have also resigned, and I have, in 4 months, I found a better job. So you know your own financial situation, and if it permits you, then I would advise you, for the sake of your mental health initially, not for patriarchy or any other reason.
No. For the mental.
And find a job which is, which will appreciate you. And I think secondly, with your family, you will have to take it easy, because that is the very, very tough part. I know that I used to wear the headscarf and I really didn't like it. And for years, I wanted to remove it, but I knew that the backlash from my family is going to be terrible. So I never had the guts to remove it. So I went along with it. I didn't really wear it perfectly, but I still kept my head covered. At some point in my life, just a few years ago, just actually a couple of years ago, I found the guts to remove it. So I think you would know your own threshold and your own relationship with your family. So push it to where you think you can, and then let it flow with the time. Don't jeopardize your mental health with anything that you cannot handle. It also depends on your relationship with your family and how much you want them to be involved in your life. At one point, I had authoritative figures over me, so I couldn't make a lot of decisions. I was not financially that stable, so I couldn't contribute 100%. So I knew that I had to keep my peace. Those authoritative figures are no longer in my life. They have moved on. And now I know that I also am financially stable, so I don't really have to take nonsense from everyone. So I think it's really on your own situation. One thing I would say is don't give up. Even if you are not seeing results now, focus on your mental health. Do as much as you can, but take it slow. But don't give up.
Thank you so much, Atiya. How powerful. Don't give up. We have our sister Tandy, who's next. Just to give you a quick heads up, Atiya, it's 11 a.m. here in New York. The talk is usually 1 hour. Unfortunately, 1 hour seems very short on such an important and such a powerful discussion, particularly when as sisters we all have so much we want to share. We have a lot of pains, a lot of aspirations, also a lot of dreams that we want to share with you. I know that in the chat we still have some other young women who perhaps would like to ask 2 more questions or so. Is it okay with you would you have time to go slightly over?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Atiya. This is so powerful. We don't want to let you go.
Thank you. I also am really, really enjoying myself. It's not always that you get a room full of like-minded men and women.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Atiya. Tandy?
Hi, Verlaine. Sorry, I've been trying to get my video on the whole morning, but for some reason, and I've had this issue since yesterday. But anyway, I'll go ahead. I'll try not to be too long, just to give everyone else a chance to also speak to Atiya. And thank you so much for this really mind-blowing discussion. I think this is one of my favorite and least favorite discussions to have as well, because it's so difficult, but there's so much that needs to be said and to be done. And I'm really happy that one of your favorite authors is from Nigeria, because I've read all her work as well, and she's also one of my favorites. So just in terms of like the discussion and what everyone was saying, it goes right down to what we teach girls and boys, right? And for example, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie says in her book, we teach girls to shrink themselves, to make themselves smaller. We say to girls, you can have ambition, but not too much. You should aim to be successful, but not too successful. otherwise you threaten the man. Because I'm female, I'm expected to aspire to marriage. I'm expected to make my life choices, always keeping in mind that marriage is the most important. So I think, and of course it goes on, but the point here is that we teach girls this right down to every aspect of their lives. You know, you shouldn't have too much money, you shouldn't have too much education, you shouldn't have too much of a voice. And we do this from a young age, and we also condition our boys to accept that. And this is why when, for example, Gilebogile was saying that, you know, as an academic, but a male academic is probably not expected to have or make the same sacrifices. Meanwhile, it's in the woman's biology, scientifically, we can't control it, to bear children. And of course, she wants to be with her family, yet we do not make the same demands on men. And it's really institutional, and it also goes down into policy. And what I mean by this is, for example, with maternity leave, women take longer time, yet men are given 2 weeks. And in a weird way, that also discriminates against them and their responsibilities to their children. However, at the same time, it also reinforces this thinking that women are meant to be at home and look after their children and whatnot, when it can actually and should be a shared burden, because you didn't bring these children into the world yourself, you know. And just my second point, I think without diminishing our cultures and our beliefs and our religious beliefs and all of that, for example, you know, with a lot of societies in the world choosing to send boys to school instead of girls to school because of what they view of girls' roles are, I think we need to continuously and consciously break that down and refer, because my view is that, you know, times have changed. There are reasons why men and women have had these roles in the past. Times have changed. There's technology now. There's more access now. There's more access to education. There's more access to opportunities for both. So I think it's this view of being stuck in time, of trying to preserve cultural views, and of trying to make sure that, you know, a specific kind of system prevails. Meanwhile, that same system also discriminates against one group. So this is just something for me that I think we need to start with children also at a young age, and it's also dependent on us. And that's why it's so very important to have, for example, you know, women in leadership, women taking up different positions. For example, in South Africa, our Minister of Defense is female, you know, and showing that these things are possible, that, you know, women are just not for, you know, the kitchen or, you know, whatever other traditional roles are. It's about amplifying that representation to show young girls that it's possible, and to show men as well that it's possible. And it's also able for, you know, you're also able as a woman to run the home as well, because I also have nothing against marriage, yet, you know, if I want to be an engineer or a pilot, or, you know, the president or whatever it is, it's also possible. So that's just the point I wanted to make in addition to what you were saying. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Thandi. And Verlaine, I just wanted to comment on something. I hope you don't mind. You said, dear sisters, about, you know, filling out a survey, but we've also got men on the talk.
Thank you so much, Atiya. Thank you, absolutely. Now, I apologize to our good, and I saw actually Frederick just sent a message, if I can read it quickly. He said, the power of silence and courage is an extension of this time bomb around patriarchy, and this platform offers an ear to loosen the challenge, and, you know, having our brothers and men part of the discussion is very important. And yes, of course, it's very important to have them. I just want to highlight indeed that Zahara Stream is really a platform of, you know, young women coming together in solidarity, sharing some of the pains and dreams that we have, and tapping into each other's solidarity. but we welcome men, and actually one of our mentors is also a man. But I guess, I have to say I'm very biased. May it be at work or through Zahara's dream, my life, my daily life is surrounded by my sisters everywhere. So it's true that I might have a bit of a slightly over encouragement towards my sisters, but I guess it comes also from my own experience and journey of overcoming patriarchy. But I don't want to exclude our brothers. So please, if you'd like to fill out the survey, feel free to do it. Thank you, Atiya.
Thank you, Belen. I just wanted to share my favorite quote of Chimamanda, since I can see that everyone is sharing it, and I actually wrote it down so that I could say it, but then I didn't get the chance. It's really my very, very favorite quote. I've actually also saved it in my phone, so that whenever I feel, well, patriarchy is not affecting me, I really don't need to go on about it. I read this quote every day, because we have a world full of women who are unable to exhale fully because they have for so long been conditioned to fold themselves into shapes to make themselves likable. And this really is my favorite quote. It really resonates with me, because I'm always told you're too argumentative, you're too bossy, people don't like you because you're very argumentative and very bossy and very moody. So I keep reminding myself that I don't have to fold myself into a certain shape just to be likable. It's important that I should like myself as well, and I should be able to live with the person that I am. That, for all women, should be the first and foremost thing.
Thank you so much, Atiya. I don't know if we have perhaps one or two more questions, and perhaps if we can have actually one of our brothers or men who's present on the call, have been, participated in this talk. What does it mean to you, patriarchy, and how can you also, be part of the change, because this is not a journey that can be led alone only by women. And Atiya, you mentioned it, also the power of coming together with your husband, and how it allowed you to also thrive. So perhaps if we can have one of our brothers who's online today who could share some of their thoughts, and so we can have a full circle. Thank you.
Isaac, can I give you a shout out? So we have Isaac here, who is someone I really admire. And Isaac, if you can hear me, are you okay to share your thoughts? Well, I guess not. Maybe someone else.
Thank you, Atiya. We have Frederick. Frederick has just sent a message saying that he was appreciating the discussion. Frederick, do you want to come in?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, Fred here speaking. Can you hear?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, first of all, I really wanted to appreciate because of this platform, which is really an encouraging point and voice, especially to women, in the degrading in the minds of cultures, and also putting to mind the aspect of inferiority, and the aspect of in where men are being given the high priority each and every moment. But for me, I'm really looking at it from the perspective of the beginning. Even when God created man, He gave him everything. And when man was looking upon the garden, he discovered no, it is not complete. So here comes a woman. So there's this notion of help, which is a connotation that is brought in a different mindset, whereby somebody when says helper, it becomes like either you are sort of like a person that only helps. And for me, because I'm being given the responsibility of a man, then you become like a helper in a sense. So it becomes an inferiority aspect. But this is not the reality of it, because God Himself grants each and every person, a man and a woman, all of them are His children. So meaning we are all equal. We can do things in all capacities. And I really love this platform because it is now granting the voice for a woman to know that he has all the capability and all the capacity to do the work. Because there's nowhere it will degrade you, but you are able to do everything and even supersede. Like in my country, I can say like the majority of the cabinet secretaries in our countries are women, which is really encouraging, and you can see a progress in these days. So let us not discourage women each and every time when they really want to pursue an aspect moving forward. Because at the end of the day, this world cannot go without women. So it is a plus and it's a good way for us to voice for our women to move on.
Thank you so much, Frederick. Thank you. Atiya, perhaps you have some thoughts on what Frederick shared?
I would tend to agree with Frederick, besides the religious perspective of it, because every religion has a different, scripture for women, different reasons for women. Some just confine women to be child bearers. So I think we now live in a globalized world, and we need to transcend, or if needed, adapt religion to the context that we are in. But I absolutely agree with all of Frederick's points, that women should not be just limited to helpers and to what they can do for men, but really they should be given that opportunity to explore their full potential. They need to be looked at as human. I think another issue I really have, and something I have an issue with, is we tell people, oh, you really need to respect her. She's someone's daughter, she's someone's wife, she's someone's sister. But why do all these demands for respect have to be associated with men? Why can't we just say that you need to respect her because she's a woman, she's a human being? And I think maybe that's what Frederick is trying to say, that we need to look at her as a woman and not just as something related to men. So thank you very much for that, Frederick.
Thank you so much, Atiya. Thank you, Frederick. And yeah, Fatimata also said that we need men to be allies for social change. Absolutely. So I don't see any more questions. Do we have perhaps one last question? Otherwise, perhaps Atiya will be able to guide us on the way forward, and we'll unfortunately have to close the session. But if we have a last comment, question. C'est tout?
Hi, everyone. Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you. This was a really powerful discussion. I just wanted to comment on one of the first things that Atiya said, where she said that, women are, we're gatekeepers and flag bearers of patriarchy. which is very true, right? And when we, from our perspectives, I think it feels, always like, we're the victims, which is true, because this is something that's been imposed, upon us for centuries, and let's say since the creation of the world, right? But at the same time, I also just want us to walk away with the fact that we also have power. We have a lot of power, where mothers, where sisters, where leaders in organizations, we have powers to also take actions to begin incrementally to really shift the power dynamics. I understand it's not easy, it takes a lot of courage, but when we also look at it from the lens of I have some power, I have some say in this, I think it gives us more fuel to continue the fight, that we're not just receiving, that we're not just gonna taking, that we can also dictate, that we can also lead, that we can also initiate the change. I think that gives me more hope. I don't want to look at it from the perspective I'm a victim. I want to look at it in the perspective I have power, I have a say, So I just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Thank you. And if I can comment on that, when you speak about power, I'm always, whenever I hear about powerful women, the first woman who comes to my mind is my grandmother. My grandmother was an extremely smart and intelligent woman, my dad's mother. However, she was removed from school at a very young age, I think 10 or 11. Brilliant genius that she was, so that she could help out in the domestic chores at home. Got married at a very young age, and she had 10 children. However, she was a businesswoman in the village. She ran a shop in the village, whereas my grandfather would go right into the interiors, in the jungles, I don't know, to source things or maybe to sell to those tribes living there. But at that time, when women had to literally cover themselves fully and stay in the house and just keep giving birth to kids, no birth control or anything, my grandmother actually ran a store and took care of her 10 kids when her husband was not there. She used to go out in the jungle and cut firewood for lighting a fire, for cooking. So when you say that, yes, we are powerful, yes, we are powerful. But for that, we have to raise ourselves, and we have to rise up. And as women, we have to lead this movement. Yes, definitely men will be our allies, but we have to lead the movement. And we've also seen right now, during the pandemic, people are always talking about how women have handled the pandemics, and there are hundreds of articles online about New Zealand, about Jacinda, Angela Merkel of Germany, the young leaders in Finland. So it is these women who are actually now the flag bearers, and are what we knew we were capable of. These women are now showing globally what we are capable of. And Harvard Business Review has an article, and I think it was published on 25th June last year, which actually says that a research was conducted, and out of 19 capabilities, women scored higher than men on 17 capabilities. Now, in the interest of time, I'm not going to name all the capabilities here, but majority of the 7 capabilities are those which we have been conditioned as girls and women to think that we don't have, or we can't have, or are manly, are not feminine. But we have those qualities within us, and we have scored very high on them. One thing where women score much, much lower than men is confidence. And I would really request those who have younger sisters, friends, daughters, and within the women in your family, that is the first step, is you have to start building the confidence in the girl child, and, you know, telling her that you are capable. That in my opinion is the first step to build the confidence of young girls and women.
Thank you so much, Atiya. That was powerful, and I'm not sure if we have any additional questions. If not, it's always difficult to say goodbye. That's the moment we dislike, but that was a very powerful, let me turn on my camera. There was a powerful discussion today, and we all learned a lot, not only from you and your own journey, but also the strategies that you shared on how to move forward, you know, and your last point on building up the girl child. And most of us on this call who are women have all experienced from, you know, the tender age, you know, the impact, the negative impact of patriarchy. Maybe, as you said, not being able to go outside, or as soon as you start becoming a young woman, being restricted to certain places. So I want to leave you the last word, Atiya, perhaps, and then we'll close. But thank you so much to everyone who joined today, and our brothers who were on the call. You're more than welcome. This is also, of course, your platform, and we've seen the discussions that are happening online. Thank you so much, Atiya. You have the last word. Thank you.
I think all I just want to say is thank you very much. I'm feeling really overwhelmed at present, just listening to everyone's journeys, and you know, sometimes you feel that you've really had it hard, but when you hear from other people their journey, it's really touching. And so I just want to thank everyone for sharing their journeys, for being so honest, for being so open. And I think we really all need to give ourselves a pat on the back and look in the mirror and really, you know, tell ourselves that our superpower is being a woman. And yeah, I'm really, really proud to be a woman. I would never want to be anything else. I'm just, those would be my last words to all these women out there. Be brave, be confident, and spread this vibe in your sphere of influence, and we'll get there.
Thank you so much, Atiya. Perhaps if everyone wants to unmute and we can thank Atiya, and then we'll end the meeting. Thank you so much, Atiya.
Thank you.
Thank you very
so much, Atiya. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you so
everyone.
much,
Bye.
Atiya.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye. Have a good weekend, everyone. Thank you so much, Atiya, for guiding us and gracing us today for this Be You Powerfully Talk. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye, everyone. Have a lovely weekend.
You too.
Bye. Same to you. Bye.